You're listening to the Caramel Apples Podcast, the apple snack that brings you a retro vibe, both crunchy and sweet, with your hosts, Kennedy Rizzo and Cooper Lee. Now, in our season finale, we covered a key highlight of the intriguing topic of the hugely popular 80s, that of WWF.
Mhm.
You just really never know what you might stumble onto during any of our Orchard Retro treks. But rest assured that whatever you do find, it's always a good time. So,
Yes.
yeah, it is. So, talking about WWF is definitely something huge from our recent past that really resonates with so many, young and old alike.
Agreed. It's so much fun reaching back into our memories or old VHS footage via YouTube in order to revisit some of these, the commentary, the smack talk and stage promo performances,
Oh, yes.
and the adrenaline filled wrestling matches that regularly occupied our TV screens back then.
Now, we've mentioned this briefly in previous episodes, and how although we were vaguely familiar with the entity of what WWF was, also as well as some of its infamous key players, the true and tried fans of this topic are the Hubby Hubs and so many others like them that are drawn to this most nostalgic mainstay.
Yeah.
Like, I literally became more familiar with some of the honorary characters of WWF, like, I'd say back in 2015 or thereabouts.
Oh, wow. Talk about being a late bloomer.
I know, right? But seriously, Coop, when I actually took the time to watch and become familiar with a few of the heavy hitters of yesteryear,
Uh-huh.
I was pleasantly surprised and totally entertained. I'm proud to say that although late to the game, I am a newfound fan.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
We promise that these next couple of weeks we'll continue to peer into and take a closer look at some more of the top names from back then and get some entertaining, in-depth insight on each of the chosen.
Cool beans.
Yeah, we've already covered key players like Andre the Giant, yeah, 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 the Iron Sheik, Jake the Snake, etc. Archivers, are any of them mentioned your favorites? If not these, who were you shouting at the TV or ring to beat their opponent? Let us know. These submissions we've been getting have been wildly entertaining. So join in our discussion and let us know. We await your thoughts and experiences, archivers.
Oh my goodness, yes. Fascinating discussion all the way around indeed, Coop.
Nice, nice.
But thinking back about their signature moves and trash talking promos was the alluring formula that fascinated many a bona fide tried and true fan on Saturday mornings, or excuse me, afternoons. It was cartoons in the mornings.
Yes.
But this week, we're going to deep dive even further in one of the most recognizable wrestlers to date. We're going to talk about Macho Man Randy Savage.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Where do we even start with when it comes to Macho Man?
I know, right?
Yeah, I mean, seriously. He was the very epitome of what we'd call a caramel apple hot mess. He was 100% ornery to boot.
He most certainly was. You literally can watch video after video of him and so many other wrestlers, but Coop, watching the Macho Man is pure entertainment.
Yes.
From head to toe, he was the whole show. And the total package of keeping the viewers glued to that tube.
His trash talking was epic.
Yes.
So that rough and tough, gravelly voice, he had some very, shall we say, interesting attire, headbands, and her. Hair.
That her.
You get one look at that hair, and that is wild bonafide power plant if you ever saw one. Behold, he owned that mane.
Oh yeah!
He really did. He'd be flinging it around while trash talking, pointing that finger, or flying through the air in the ring while mashing on and accosting his opponent. Macho Man Randy Savage was truly a live wire, whom you could tell that he really enjoyed what he came to do. And that was to perform and win.
Macho Man is so entertaining. You can't help but smile and laugh.
Facts, Coop. Well, Macho Man Randy Savage was born Randall Mario Poffo on November 15th, 1952. As we're all well aware, he was an American professional wrestler, commentator, actor, rapper, and professional baseball player at one time.
Eclectic?
Yeah, that's a pretty wild resume there. But thankfully, he was best known for his infamous career in the WWF and later the WCW. You know, and a lot of fans know that the WCW stands for World Championship Wrestling. So this is where his Macho Man pseudonym took hold, and this is how we know him best, as we just mentioned.
Yes. So, well, we may ask just how good, recognized, and well liked was Macho Man Randy Savage in the wide, wide world of wrestling, even though he was a notable heel. Fun fact, you may be happy to know that Macho Man Randy Savage was described by ESPN's Bill Simmons as one of the greatest pro wrestlers who ever lived.
Mm.
Yes. So, a statement repeatedly echoed by numerous industry comrades and performers. We'd have to humbly agree.
Indeed. Like, we can't stress this enough, but if you ever had the privilege or seen the Macho Man perform either on TV or live in person, inside or outside the ring, then you are fortunate enough to have been a witness to true enjoyable entertainment.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more.
So Macho Man Randy Savage was easily recognizable wherever he went. With his wild hairdo and his distinctive deep raspy voice.
Snap it to a Slim Jim.
He had his flamboyant attire and all that to go in the basket as well.
This is so true of Macho Man.
Yes.
He was so entertaining, as stated earlier. Each time he had a chance to enter into the venue he was wrestling at, again, his ornery intensity was put on full display and exhibited both in and out of ring. He would have the song playing, Pump Up the Circumstances, or what?
That was ugly.
That's ugly. Okay. Song playing, Pomp and Circumstance, as he paraded in. Now, if you're not quite familiar with what we're talking about and just saying the name of the song, no doubt you've heard it a time or two. You know the traditional high school university graduation song. Da, 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 da.
Yep, that'd be it. That's the one.
This was his entrance anthem.
Now, see, are we even the least bit surprised at all of Macho Man's 3D honoriness he's chosen to share with the world?
No.
I mean, come on. After all, he does hail from Columbus, Ohio.
Ooh, go Midwest.
And you know what they say about the craziness that comes from amongst the cornfields.
children of the corn. No, just kidding.
Yes, that's another version.
That's a scary thing.
But here we got Exhibit A, Macho Man Randy Savage.
Absolutely.
Here's a well-known fun fact cherished by loyal wrestling fans the world over.
Okay.
Macho Man Randy Savage was frequently accompanied by the beautiful Elizabeth Hewlett, who was both his real life wife and manager, better known as Miss Elizabeth. She carried out these two key roles in relation to and for most of Macho Man's time in association with the WWF and WCW.
Miss Elizabeth. Yes. And she proved to be very instrumental in some of the brewing drama and some of the key storylines that bounced around during their tenure of the pro wrestling world. So we'll get into that a little more here in a moment.
We sure will. So let's briefly lay out some of the notable celebratory nods he's collected that has made him a superstar as well as a household name back in the day.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it, Coop.
Okay, so at a peak highlight of his shining wrestling career, did you know that Macho Man Randy Savage was named by WWE, as it is known, now known, as the greatest title holder of all time?
Oh,
And he was credited for bringing a higher level of credibility to the title through his amazing in ring performances.
can we say he delivers upon many a feisty opponent? The flying elbow drop. The Hubs has told me about that signature move of the Macho Man.
The hub's giving some valuable information.
Always. I make him.
So Macho Man is a hot mess. I think we all know that.
Facts.
Yes. So get a load of these stats. Fun fact. Did you know that Macho Man Randy Savage had 29 championship reigns with 11 titles during his impressive 32-year career?
Wow, impressive. Good word there, Coop.
Yeah, 32 years? That's a long time in that, right?
That's simply amazing.
Yeah. So this includes two separate titles. One as WWF World Heavyweight Champion, and count them, four, as WCW World Heavyweight Champion. Impressive indeed.
But just how impressive, we might ask?
Yes.
Well, we've got a pretty good idea of what we're talking about this week thus far, but this point here will no doubt put things in perspective. So as WWF champion, the Macho Man Randy Savage held similar drawing power to none other than Hulk Hogan.
And one of the infamous quotes that was cherished and repeated by many fans the world over, also with Hulk Hogan in mind, Macho Man goes, Hulkamania is like a single grain of sand in the Sahara Desert. That is macho madness.
Oh, yeah.
We laugh and jest, but there was an interesting twist to the whole Macho Man Randy Savage versus Hulk Hogan showdown. Their rivalry and theatrics weren't just made for great in-ring or TV moments, although this did play out in real time in these areas of media.
Oh, okay. So spill the tea. What was the twist, Kennedy?
Well, the twist was that Macho Man's anger, indifference, and animosity toward Hulk Hogan was that he was not playing. Yeah, he was jealous of Hogan.
What?
Oh, yeah. So he was feeling and thinking that, Hulk Hogan had a thing for his beautiful manager and real life wife, Miss Elizabeth.
Oh.
Yeah, uh-oh.
Well, so I'm led to believe that so much of their feud and anger played out in real time in ring. Uh-oh is right. I could also imagine that Macho Man Randy Savage took full advantage of and looked forward to tussling with anyone messing with his wife, especially in this particular reoccurring situation with Hulk Hogan himself.
Hulk Hogan, yeah. You see, you don't know where the Macho Man is coming from? You're right. You don't know anything about the Macho Man Randy Savage and where I'm coming from. Because it's mind-boggling to you, yeah. How one man could make it to the top of the World Wrestling Federation mountain, yeah. All by myself. No pukesters helping me to the left. And no pukesters helping me to the right. Didn't need 'em then, don't need 'em now. And another person I don't need is Elizabeth either, yeah. Because I'm the champion by myself, all by myself. You don't know where I'm coming from, Hulk Hogan, this Sunday afternoon. But I know where you're coming from, yeah. I know everything about Hulk Hogan, yeah. I know what makes you tick, yeah. And you've got the audacity, yeah, to see that in WrestleMania 5, that Hulkamania is gonna survive. You don't know me, Hulk Hogan. You don't know where I'm coming from. After I'll beat you with that big elbow and pin you 1, 2, 3, guaranteed victory. I'm gonna tell you and all the pukesters out there one last time before this Sunday afternoon. Hulkamania is dead.
I believe this did play out in one of their showdown matches on TV. I've seen partial clips of a video of this actually. So, appropriate to what we're speaking of, here's yet another famous Macho Man quote. Every sport has its own cast of characters.
Oh, yeah.
Facts. He knows a thing or two about that, doesn't he?
Yes. So truer words have never been spoken.
Agreed. Well, Macho Man was the 1987 WWF King of the Ring, and there's also titled one a few years later in 1995 as the WCW World War III winner. Mach also headlined numerous pay-per-view events all throughout his fascinating career, including WrestleMania 4, 5, and 8, being part of a double main event at the last of those presentations.
I know we briefly touched on this earlier, but it's hard to believe that Macho Man Randy Savage, as we've come to know him, actually started out his professional sports themed career in, here it is, baseball. Yeah, let that soak in. He was assigned as a catcher right out of high school.
This is true, Coop. This is fascinating.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah. And he was placed in the minor leagues to train and develop to where he mostly played as an outfielder in both the St. Louis Cardinals as well as the Cincinnati Reds farm systems.
So we just shared how Macho Man Randy Savage was assigned as a catcher right out of high school. Well, get this, you hardcore Macho Man fans. Fun fact. In that time frame, did you know that Randy Savage was just 18 years old when he launched into playing minor league baseball? And he was really good at it too.
Yeah, he was real good.
So, but that's not how we, Joe Public, know him now, is it?
Nope. It's our show this week on one of our favorite retro pro wrestler Apple snack topics.
Yes.
Macho Man Randy Savage took a major gamble and made the tough choice in deciding to step away from his true passion and potentially lucrative baseball career in order to become a full-time wrestler. Yeah, he made his pivotal career move official and signed with the WWF owner Vince McMahon in July 1985.
So, as part of the familiar and nostalgic segments, Tuesday Night Titans, In attendance, there were many reputable and established managers vying to represent this rising star billed as the top free agent in pro wrestling. Established managers such as Bobby the Brain Heenan, aka Boobsy, according to Roddy Piper, Jimmy Hart, and Classy Freddie Blassie were jockeying and literally there waiting to offer Macho Man their managerial services.
Well, the opportunity presented had some merit, but after giving his dilemma some careful thought and attention, Macho Man actually declined those potentially lucrative offers and made the decision to choose someone entirely different. And can you guess who that was?
Well, Kennard, I thankfully don't have to guess on this one. Got a cheat sheet here.
Yes, she has notes.
So, fun fact, lo and behold, Macho Man Randy Savage chose his real life wife, Miss Elizabeth, as his new manager. Talk about a wild card.
Indeed. And she did a pretty good job taking charge in his stead, I'd say. But that was as long as their rapport and individual personas or relationships stayed above board.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And thankfully, for the most part, it did. But as many a loyal, hardcore fan knows the history of these two, there was soon trouble in paradise for both personally as well as professionally. So Mach would say, too hot to handle, too cold to hold.
He's all about coining a phrase, wasn't he?
He had a ton of them. He's a hot mess.
So you sort of seen the truth of that in the mounting, build up tension a brewing concerning his lingering jealousy over wrestlers and other folks oogling Miss Elizabeth. Yeah, it was a good cover whenever he was trash talking other wrestlers in his promos before huge, most anticipated matches.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't help but wonder that he was doing all of that. He was able to blow off some necessary steam and very real frustration over wild thoughts of who is or who could be messing with his wife. You know, what they say about work and pleasure, and two never mix or jive well,
Yeah, that would be quite the distraction.
right?
Yeah, that is even like you said earlier, Joe Public, like the common person in workplaces, like that's not usually a good formula.
Yeah, yeah. That's a separate story. It
Entirely, that's a whole topic on it in itself.
really is.
But funny you should say that about Macha's jealousy and stuff, because it was his gimmick, portraying a crazed, egomaniacal bully who mistreated Miss Elizabeth and threatened anyone who dared look upon her.
Mm.
So, the truth is stranger than fiction, isn't it?
Well, that was an easy sell, so maybe he's like, that's why we should just go with it.
Yeah, were they acting much?
So Macho Man Randy Savage's popularity was gaining speed all throughout, so much so that he was being cheered on by a huge number of fans despite being the heel.
Mm-hmm.
So, because of this interesting development and rising popularity, this literally became a huge turning point in his dialing back his ornery and becoming less hostile toward the fans, as well as Miss Elizabeth.
Yes, because the fans no doubt liked and were drawn to her too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So most likely they were protective of her. They were fans of her. So he had to tread very careful going forward.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes.
A whole lot of who they were and what they do rode on what type of specific decorum they displayed.
Mm-hmm.
So the couple shared quite the history throughout their lives.
So, although they got married in 1984 in WWF's heyday, the drama, turmoil, and jealousy got to be too much for them.
Oh, a shame.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that while they were fine working the ring, the raw truth was that their marriage was falling apart.
Mm,
And sadly, they got divorced in 1992.
okay.
But still, due to their decent working relationship, they continued to work together even when he went to WCW. And their presence together really took the pro wrestling world by storm.
Gives new meaning for the term power couple, doesn't it?
Sure. Yeah.
And that term power couple, that really is more than just a phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my opinion, if it's the real thing, it's undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like there's a chemistry of sorts. Like you can cut it with a knife if it's really there.
Ah, so you're saying we could find it on the periodic table? Is that what you're saying? So, we mentioned a few occasions before how most of the pro wrestlers had their time in the ring with Hulk Hogan at one time or another. Of course, Macho Man Randy Savage was of no exception, as many diehard loyal fans know. Also, jealousy was a buzzword too. So, you want to briefly share what happened?
Yes, I do. And I believe that there's actually footage of what I'm about to share with you on social media, YouTube. At least that's where I've seen it.
Okay, okay.
But as a result of a particular loss from a match with Macho Man and the Heart Foundation and the Honky Tonk Man, this all this going on. They went and attacked Macho Man. They attacked Mach.
Okay.
So in response to this conundrum, Miss Elizabeth, as his manager, she enlisted Hulk Hogan's help in order to save Macho Man. So clearly already fired up with jealousy, he still managed to game face this new liaison formed with the three of these three called the Mega Powers. So that was Macho Man, Miss Elizabeth, and Hulk Hogan.
Ah, okay. So the show must go on.
Yep, correct.
But due to that underlying layer of jealousy looming over things, their working situation rapidly deteriorated. And
Hmm.
Macho Man turned to Hulk Hogan when Hogan left their match against the Twin Towers in order to carry Miss Elizabeth backstage after she took a fall.
Yes, yes, I remember. Yes, this was the footage I saw, Coop. It was intense.
Oh boy. So, following this occurrence, though, Macho Man fired Miss Elizabeth as his manager and began working with one named Sherry.
Okay, so his dealings with Sherry too, and I think that's all I remember. I don't know her last name or whatever, but it was just Sherry's. It was Sherry. Uh,
Okay.
this was short lived, and this played out at WrestleMania 7,
Hmm.
where Macho Man had it out in a match against the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh.
When Macho Man lost the match with him, Macho's then manager Sherry was livid, and she, she ended up attacking Macho Man.
Oh my goodness, drama.
Correct, Coop. But get this, when this happened, this did not sit well with Miss Elizabeth.
God.
So they had that familial kinship, and that came alive. And she came to Macho's aid and rescued him.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, so how awesome is that?
Oh, very. For another key moment that spawned from this became yet another pivotal memory and occurrence in the realm of WWF, which was this. Fun fact, they played out their proposal and wedding in in a true wrestler fashion,
Okay.
coined as match made in heaven.
Oh, they named it.
He's all about coining stuff. So which took place at SummerSlam 1991. So very 90s.
Is 90s. So more drama and entertainment than that plays out than a soap opera from back in the day.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, nostalgia. And there's still so much more drama that ensued between Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth, but that second marriage sadly ended too, um,
Wow.
which again disappointed the fans.
Sure.
So, do any of you Orchard archivers remember some of these storylines, triangles, and feuds that we've spoken about this week, or any others you may recall? If you do, please share, because it would be fascinating to see what comes up for future topics of discussion.
Right?
Yeah. So, another quick reference that surfaced was that there was some sort of tryst between Miss Elizabeth and Ric Flair.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. So Macho Man Randy Savage defeated Ric Flair in a match, and he and Miss Elizabeth exited from WWF, the now WWE, since the early 90s, and they end up going to the WCW. So, but after the continued drama and jealousy that regularly defined their connection, they divorced a second time, calling it quits on both liaisons in their professional life and their personal life.
Mm.
Later on, after being with Lex Luger, he's another wrestler. I think he was more in the 90s collection.
Okay.
I know the Hubs knows a little about him. He knows the story, but we're not going to go long on him. But Miss Elizabeth's life did a downward spiral, and she tragically passed away on May 1st, 2003.
Mm.
So even though they were no longer together, I do believe, Coop, that Miss Elizabeth was truly Macho Man's heart. So much so, I think that's probably something he never got over, like her dying. You know, they were
Mm.
already apart, but then she died, and
Yeah, yeah,
that probably just raked him over the coals. To be brutally honest with you.
yeah. And that's so very sad. Um, Anytime you lose someone that you really care about, there's quite a hole.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's where some of the fighting comes from. Like they're so passionate about wanting to connect with their person, and it comes out in anger or frustration.
Right. Well, as we've stated many times before, that we could open up even more stories, more history, and such on Macho Man. But as his career went along, Macho Man walked through doors of more exposure and opportunity, um, where he eventually ended up, found himself in videos, TV shows, and movies.
Okay.
He even dipped his toes into the music industry and briefly got into rap.
What?
Rapping, yes. Barely say that without laughing.
I know.
Macho Man Randy Savage was doing some rap music.
Oh, yeah!
Oh my gosh, Coop, that is so funny.
I want to be broke dance too. Break dance. Never
Oh,
mind.
that's awful. But that was kind of a weird trend back in the early to mid 90s.
It was. It was.
My goodness. Oh. Well, we're happy to say that we'll always connect our nostalgia and memories of Macho Man Randy Savage to wrestling and the WWF.
Yes.
Now, there's one more key memory before we wrap this up, where I personally recall noticing Macho Man in the media, and that was in some commercials that we had available to us in pop culture.
Yes.
Are you with me, Coop?
I am.
Okay.
Macho Man starred in and was the celebrity spokesperson for a popular snack we all know well and have enjoyed. So, fun fact, can we say, snap into a Slim Jim? Oh, yeah.
Full of spice.
Macho Man was a spokesman for Slim Jim snacks during the mid 90s. I think even into the late 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
And this famous catchphrase became a reoccurring theme in these ads.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta have beef, gotta have spice, need a little excitement. Snap into a Slim Jim. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and again, this really was our introduction to Macho Man. Like, I don't know, because we weren't really connected to the WWF or anything like that back when we were growing up. We didn't watch it. We weren't allowed to,
Right.
but it took seeing commercials and like, who is that guy? He's nuts, he's crazy. So it was due to these commercials that we were even like he was on the map for us.
Right.
But just watching those commercials and now watching him do his thing, very entertaining. It just makes you laugh. It makes you smile.
Right. And that just shows you the power of pop culture.
Facts.
These things crossing over and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So those commercials were pure entertainment gold for sure.
Sure was.
And sadly, though, Macho Man Randy Savage tragically passed away on May 20th of 2011.
Oh,
Yes, he was 59 years old, truly one of a kind, and is truly missed.
yes, yes.
So, to you Orchard archivers, what were your favorite moves, matches, and or memories about the Macho Man? Hit us back and let's ignite this fascinating discussion.
Coop, this really was a cool throwback discussion we've had this week on the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Mhm.
He, hands down, was one of the most controversial figures in the history of pro wrestling and sports entertainment. And he effortlessly brought a chaotic poetry to the ring, and his interviews were always a sight to behold. I don't know. I think it's safe to say that Macho Man Randy Savage was widely considered to be one of the finest in ring competitors of all time.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
And that's it for this week's Apple Snack. But as you know, there's always more where that came from. So stay tuned. Subscribe, review, and spread the word. See you next time in the Retro Orchard, and thanks so much for listening.